There are a lot of solo and indie developers out there who are giving great advice on how you can start your own game development journey. Do these 3 things and you'll be on your merry way. The thing is, I love these YouTubers. I think that they are giving great advice, but I think it lacks a focus. See, it's not enough to give great advice. You also have to tailor that advice to the developer that you're speaking to. And this is monumentally difficult to do as a YouTuber. But today I want to focus on you. Today I want to give you 3 mistakes that I think I was given by other YouTubers and try to flip that and give you a better process so that you can start your game development journey off right. Let's get started. The first mistake that a lot of new developers get stuck doing is getting locked into tutorial hell. What is tutorial hell?
No. Wait.
Visual meme aside, tutorial hell I think is best described as getting locked into tutorial after tutorial after tutorial and not feeling like you're progressing forward at all. See, the problem is you need to learn a lot of different topics as a game developer. Especially if you're a solo developer, you're going to be learning coding, art design, music, and a lot of other strategic components. The thing is, you may be equipped for, a vast majority of these skills. Maybe it's only a couple of these skills, but you have a lot of learning to do if you're going to actually finish a project. Here's the fix you need in order to progress forward in your game development journey. You need to explore the necessary tools only and press forward from there. Here's a personal example of mine. I know how to compose music. I'm getting really good at how to code a particular type of game, but I need to learn more basics about art. This is where a tutorial series on how to do pixel art would have been very useful. And I actually did find that, and you can check out my results on this video here. Possible resources for you though are going to vary based off of what your strengths are, and also based off of what your weaknesses are. Remember, we're going to be a jack of all trades if we're a solo developer. Now, some of you might be a part of a team, so this doesn't really apply to you, but if you are a solo developer, you need to look inward and go, what is the area that I'm lacking in? And only focus on one of those areas at a time. Making sure that you're focusing on one thing and one thing only is the key, because there are going to be many categories that you need to master in order to do one particular project. And that's okay if it takes a long time for you to get started, but focusing on one particular thing that you need help in is going to make sure that you're on the fast track to getting that off your hopper and going, okay, you know what? I've actually mastered enough of this skill to be dangerous in that particular toolkit. And that's really the thing. We're building a massive toolkit of things that are going to be helpful to us when we're developing games. Now, the second tempting mistake that a lot of people make is just create a game that you enjoy. And I think that this one is the most enticing. Here's why. While it's good to find things that you enjoy and then get really nerdy and really passionate about those things and learn as much as we can about those things, I think that we can probably have many categories that we're interested in. What I think is most tempting about finding something that we enjoy doing is we can get really nerdy about that particular topic. We can get nerdy about a bunch of different topics. But I think the problem lies in if we have many categories that we are interested in, there isn't that clear focus. And just like how learning we need to be focused, we need to be focused on the creations that we are trying to make as well. I know that I am particularly nerdy about the organizational aspects of game development. Actually, I'm just nerdy in general about organizing and managing my entire life. The problem with that is I don't actually start creating. I'm just making the systems that then end up leading to my downfall because I'm not actually creating anything productive. I'm just creating the systems around the creative process. Whatever. I think the fix for this is to narrow down the categories you want to tackle in your creations, not maybe necessarily your learning process, but the creations that you're trying to make, is to tackle 2 to 3 things at a time. I think 2 to 3 things is a manageable amount of tasks for creating something, even if you have a more busy lifestyle outside of game development. Personally, I'm interested in RPGs, first-person shooters, cover shooters, and I'm generally interested in card games as well as arcade games. That is a massive list of items, and not all games are going to be able to squash every single one of those systems into one game, unless of course you're like that one, what's that one indie game that wanted to come out? Yeah, it wasn't a good project. It tried to be a jack of all trades and it was a master of none of those things. And it wasn't even good. The thing is, your game needs to be tangible. You need to make tangible decisions that lead to one of those products actually coming through. And you can have projects that kind of morph and change as they go, but typically you want to have them be tangential to each other. What does tangential mean, Noah? It means have them be similar. Have them be pretty similar to each other so that you can pivot between these two things. Just like how cover shooters are similar to first-person shooters, those two things are tangential to each other. And instead of making these grand plans for your game, make sure that it is a focused and small scoped experience so that you can actually achieve what you want to achieve. Like if we wanted to go back to my example, I would probably select an arcade game. It's an easy game loop that's repeatable, and I know that I can get it done in a small scale scope of time. There we go. That's a sentence. Like if I'm looking for resources online for my particular genre of game, I'm going to try and find a step-by-step tutorial series that is doing that one particular thing. For me, I chose Eric Berg, I believe his name is. I'll put him on the screen here. He had a tutorial series for how to create Pong. I'm like, Pong is an arcade style game. It's a classic, and I think that I need to learn these skills if I'm gonna create other arcade games. It goes step by step on every aspect of creating that game. The best part about this is if I had a particular thing that I'm like, hey, I'm lacking in this area, but I'm not really lacking in this area, I can focus on that particular aspect as we get to it in the tutorial series. But I'm basically going step by step with him on how to create Pong. It's perfect for the people that are trying to start off in their game development journey, and they're also solo developers as well. It really helps out to have one person that you can just go, hey, I am doing this project alongside this other person. And you can kind of figure out what strengths and what weaknesses you have on the fly. Now, I wanted to put a disclaimer here about the scope and the size of your project. Some people who will be watching this are probably gonna be saying, hey, I can jump whole hog into a multiplayer style game, which is gonna be a monumental feat. And good luck to you if that is what you're trying to do. But for those of you who can't do large scale projects yet, I think that having a step-by-step guide is going to be the best way for you to scale your skills. See, having bite-sized chunks is going to be more manageable for you, and you're gonna get your skills rolling faster than getting stuck in the weeds on large-scale projects. And the third thing that I've heard from developers is don't plan, just get started. And I know that this is well-intentioned and there's a lot of nuance behind that phrase, but hear me out. I think that the first step to creating any game is to plan the process out before you get into your IED or you get into any sort of inspector window. And a lot of people will see this as more administrative work rather than actually creating a game. But I think that we forget that establishing the plan and trying to tackle things in a logical order is going to be the most effective way to getting your product out there. There is an effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I love using this example when I'm trying to learn a new task or I'm trying to learn a new set of skills, is looking at this curve and realizing that we're not supposed to be at the top end of the curve. See, the way that it works is when you're at the start of learning a particular set of skills or you're starting a new task, is we think that we know more than we actually know. And as time progresses, we start to realize, hey, we're not proficient at this skill like we thought, or the transferable skills that we had from another point in time don't actually transfer over to this skill. And what I've found out in my own personal experience is we cannot tell on the Dunning-Kruger scale where we actually are until we're kind of towards the more like intermediate or advanced portion of our journey. So Gurky, how do you actually fix that? How do you actually know where you're at on the scale if you can't predict where you're at on the scale? Well, what we can do is we can think of what we're gonna need for this project. We can think of the scope of the project, if you will, and we can try and break it down into bite-sized chunks, and we can look at other people's experiences. Now, this is where looking at all of the YouTubers, all of the game developers out there who have said, this is where I would start my journey in game development if I was starting over. I think those videos are going to be monumentally important to try and figure out where we need to go and how long it's going to take for our project to actually be achieved. And I know that learning is going to be a part of the process regardless. I mean, you shouldn't get stuck in tutorial hell, but you can't just not watch any tutorials either. There's going to be this fine balance between you learning how to organize the process, you learning all of the skills that you need, filling in the gaps of what you know and what you don't know. It's going to be a process, and there's going to be nothing there stopping you from going outside the box and trying to learn in another way that other people haven't learned before. See, my point isn't that you shouldn't try to go outside of this box, or you shouldn't just, throw caution to the wind, don't have any plan, just go forth and try and conquer the world. My point is that we should keep in mind a reasonable scope, a reasonable plan of action. I know that everybody isn't going to try and meticulously line up, oh, we need to learn X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, and then, okay, I'm gonna start with 1 here, and then I'm just gonna go down my list. Not everybody's gonna wanna do that. But what I am saying is you want to keep in mind what you can reasonably do in your time, and then try and tackle that with some semblance of organization. After all, an disorganized project isn't going to develop anything in the long run. I guess what I'm trying to say is we can all bring our strengths to the game development table, and we can leverage those strengths in awesome ways to create pieces of art that we can share with other people. After all, that is the point, is to create something that we can share with other people. See, the way I see it is anybody can make an indie game. Anyone can make the next Minecraft. Or more actively, we can have someone who makes something better than that. All it takes is the first few lines of code, the first couple button presses, and quality time learning about this newfound obsession. Am I being too reductive? Am I being too analytical? Yeah, I probably am. After all, it's the first few steps. We can't get too stuck on them because that's what they are. They're first steps in a series of steps that are gonna lead you towards success. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that people get off on the right foot and they don't get stuck in those weeds like most of us do. Like I said, getting stuck in tutorial hell, that can really suck, especially when you have this spark of passion and you don't know what to do with it. I think that it's up to you from now on to discover what you want to do. What is the more that you need to do? I hope that one day I get to see one of the great creations that you have come up with. And if not, that's okay too. At least I can see you again in the next one. Take care.